easy as we thought, so they're firing on the oil installations on Pulau Bukum to make sure the enemy doesn't get them.
Observe fire. Hit! Hit on oil installation! Continue firing on present range and bearing.
Continue firing on present range and bearing.
Right, you lot. There's no time to hang about. Our job is to support that 6-inch gun emplacement. Go down the steps as quick as you can now. So help. Now I know you're feeling a bit in the dark, but that's your job. That's what we've been training for, right? Just you keep feeding those voices. Do your job. Trust everyone else to do the same. Any complaints? No. Glad to hear it. Carry on.
By the 1930s, Singapore was heavily fortified with many coastal defenses and a huge naval base. Citizens and defenders called it Fortress Singapore. They thought it was impregnable, but the Japanese would prove the folly of overconfidence. Using surprise, speed, and stealth, they crushed the Gibraltar of the East, plunging its people into a dark new era. With Europe at war, Japan was busy on a strategy that included the invasion of China and incursions into the Philippines, French Indochina, and elsewhere. On December the 8th, 1941, Japan turned its sights to Malaya and Singapore. 3 simultaneous actions were launched, their intent to surprise, shock, and thrill. Pearl Harbor. The attack aimed to keep America out of Japan's Southeast Asia campaign. At the same time, the Japanese troops were landing in southern Thailand and northern Malaya. The British had wrongly assumed that 200 miles of Malayan jungle would deter an attack. As a result, they oriented their defenses toward the sea. Using a highly disciplined battle plan, the Japanese moved swiftly through Malaya, taking just 7 weeks to push the British defenders back into Singapore. The Japanese general Tomoyuki Yamashita called the greatest bluff. He commanded just 35,000 troops, while British General A.E. Percival had 80,000. But Singapore's defenders were poorly trained, armed, and directed. Yamashita's strategy moved quickly toward the city, cut off water and other critical supplies, create chaos. As the Japanese continued their rapid advance, the guns on Rakamati turned landward, but the Japanese controlled the air, raining bombs on civilian and military targets, while ground troops routed the defending forces in a series of short, bloody actions. Singapore's defenders fought bravely, particularly the Straits Volunteers and the Indian and Malay brigades, but they became dispirited and were overwhelmed in street-to-street fighting. The greatest suffering was borne by the civilian population. Virtually undefended from Japanese bombing, they witnessed the destruction of their city, the utter breakdown of services, and daily mounting casualties. By February the 15th, more than 1 million people had crowded into Singapore City. Food, fuel, ammunition, and water were nearly gone. General Percival saw only one option: surrender. Underestimation of the Japanese, lack of aggressive leadership, a divided command structure, inadequate armaments, poor training, and low morale all contributed to the worst disaster and largest capitulation in British history.
mission. Over. What I do know is that this place, Fort Silosa, doesn't belong to the British anymore. Another empire's taken over. We've destroyed the guns, our guns, blown them up or thrown them over the cliffs. And so that's it. The end of 60 years of Fort Silosa. But I'll tell you something. We may have lost Singapore, but we haven't lost the war yet. Not by a long shot. 100,000 Allied soldiers. That's how many prisoners they've taken. They're saying it's our biggest defeat since the war began. Well, I wouldn't know about that.
You in the shelter! Get yourselves out of there! And get a move on, will you?
Sorry, sir. I keep losing you. Yes, sir. The 12-pounder crew has gone, sir, to support the 6-inch crew. Yes, sir. Yes, we're backing up now. I realised that, sir, but there was no ammo left, so we shut up shop. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And good luck to you too, sir.
Let the Japanese try to take Singapore. Our harbour is protected by the best guns in the British Empire. Fortress Singapore they call it. And so for me, it is business as usual.
Men, listen up. The Japanese are very small and short-sighted and thus totally unsuited physically to tropical warfare. They have airplanes made from old kettles and kitchen utensils, and rifles of the kind used in films about Red Indians.
When Sir Stamford Raffles set up a trading service in Singapore in 1819, he recognized the importance of Black Mati for the defense of the shop.
It has been my good fortune to discover one of the most safe and expensive harbors in the States, with every facility for protecting shipping in time of war.
In 1827, with Singapore flourishing, the British commissioned Captain Edward Blake, a military engineer, to report on Singapore's defences. He too saw the strategic importance of Black Atlantic.
If an enemy were to make themselves master of Black and Mighty, it would give them command of the harbour, and therefore it should be fortified to prevent that contingency, as well as to protect the harbour from attack by sea.
Apart from the building of Fort Fullerton on the mainland, nothing else was done until world events brought new urgency to this watery crossroads. The coming of the steamships, and in 1869 the opening of the Suez Canal, posed new threats to the British Empire in the east. Britain's enemies now had a gateway to the Indian Ocean and beyond. Singapore, as a principal coaling station, became central to the support of the British Navy in the eastern waters, and Black and Mighty became key to the defence of Singapore.
New forts and batteries were built. Fort Connaught on the eastern end of the island, Fort Saratoga in sight, and Fort Silosa, guarding the western entrance to Capel Harbour. To give her guns a complete field of fire, the top of Mount Silosa was blown off. By 1892, this fort had a Royal Artillery complement of 18. Thereafter, it took its role in the defence of Singapore. Over time, the fort was expanded and improved. As more powerful warships took to the seas, Black and Mighty gained new, more powerful guns. By the turn of the century, the old muzzle-loading guns were replaced by modern breech loaders with quicker fire. Under the expert eye of the Royal Artillery, members of the Singapore Volunteer Artillery became practiced fighting units. Apart from the Seapoll Mutiny of February 1915, Singapore saw no military action during World War I. In the years that followed, Singaporeans turned their focus to trade and the good life. But while their country prospered, a threat was growing to life as Singaporeans knew it. Japan, already at war with China, set its sights on a new order in East Asia, which included the seizure of British, French and Dutch colonies during the war in Europe.
The British reinforced Singapore's coastal defences with the addition of 5 15-inch guns and constructed a new naval base at Sembawang in the Strait of Johor. This created a false sense of security. When Britain declared war on Germany in September 1939, the people of Singapore took the threat in the state of emergency.
Life went on much as before until pre-dawn on December the 8th, 1941, when enemy bombs fell on Singapore for the first time. Despite fierce dive, the gunners on Black and Muddy fought hard as the Japanese advanced. Fort Connaught's 9.2-inch guns returned land to engage targets. Saloso's battery severely damaged the oil installations at Pulau Puka and on Pulau Serbo to keep them from falling into enemy hands. Black and Marty's defenders fought to the finish and were not captured by force of arms. They were prepared to go on fighting, but on February the 15th, 1942, the British surrendered.
The Saloso gunners destroyed their 6-inch guns and threw their 12-pounder over the cliff and into the sea below.
Some escaped the island by sampan. The majority were not so fortunate. Most became prisoners of war. For 3.5 years, Singapore came under Japanese occupation, and Fort Saloso served as a POW camp. Many went from here to Changi Prison. Others went further to build the notorious Burma Siam Death Railway. Conditions in most of the POW camps were poor. Prisoners suffered from lack of food, overcrowding, and disease. Approximately 1/3 perished. There were rare moments of celebration. On the 26th of September 1943, the lights of Black and Muddy guided the canoes of a sabotage mission, Operation Jaywalk. The mission sank or badly damaged 7 Japanese ships, much to the delight of 400 prisoners on Black and Muddy who could hear the explosions. The defeat of the Japanese by the Allies and their final surrender on September the 12th, 1945, brought freedom and hope back to Singapore.
Today, Black and Muddy is Fort Sentosa, meaning island of peace and tranquility. But Fort Saloso stands as a reminder of our past. After the war, the fort continued to serve a military purpose until 1972, when Sentosa became purely an island of recreation.
But the lessons learned from the Japanese occupation have not been forgotten. The war made Singaporeans determined to be self-sufficient in their own defense. Today, Singapore has a state-of-the-art army, navy and air force manned by well-trained and motivated personnel.
We know that every person has a role to play in protecting Singapore.
As long as people travel and train on the ocean, Singapore will have an enduring strategic importance. And so, we must be ever committed to keeping Singapore strong.